let's talk to you about what is going on. A lot of people waking up on Saturday morning to the news that these extraordinary attacks, unprecedented scale of attacks from the Gaza Strip, from Hamas, terrorists, call them what they are, against completely innocent civilians in Israel. I think one of the most sort of abiding images from it is these young people fleeing a festival, a youth festival in the south of the country. 260 of the 700 plus people in Israel who've died are known to have been people at that festival, undoubtedly civilians. We've also seen the abduction of huge numbers of people, including grandmothers and babies, whole families. What was the purpose, do you believe? What was the purpose of this attack by Hamas?
The purpose hasn't actually been properly articulated. There's a lot of speculation around it, and Hamas themselves are saying it's in reaction to Israeli hard-handedness into some of the disputed areas and all the rest of it. But that doesn't fit with what they've done. This is a very, very sophisticated attack where they've done preparatory activities. They've planned it all behind Israeli or outside Israeli intelligence seeing it. They've done preparatory activities, taking out Israeli surveillance in the area, and then they've come in through multi-domains. They've come in by sea, they've come in through the fences, and they've come in with these paragliders that we saw getting into that music festival around Reem and attacking civilian targets, terrorising, and they are terrorists. You know, and the one mistake that I think a lot of people make out there is that they assume Hamas represents the Palestinian people. Yeah. They don't.
You can be pro-Palestine, you can be supportive of the
Correct.
Palestinian cause and the plight of people in Gaza, which is undoubtedly very, very difficult, and even more so today than it was on Friday, for instance, without supporting Hamas, which is a proscribed terrorist organisation in Britain, America and many other countries as well. So when they launched this attack, clearly took a lot of planning, huge amounts of funding, huge number of people involved. There's been a lot of question marks about why the Israeli intelligence, renowned as pretty much the best in the world, didn't know about this. The Americans give them lots of help. They didn't know about it. But this goes ahead. What could Hamas have thought the consequences would be other than massive retaliation by Israel, a shoring up to a certain extent of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's actually the Israeli Prime Minister, who's actually a very shaky coalition right now. He certainly doesn't have the full support of the Israeli people, and huge number of deaths and destruction across Gaza. Is that what they wanted?
Well, it's not going to achieve them anything. You know, it's going to achieve more Palestinian people getting killed, more Israeli innocent people getting killed, innocents on both sides. And therefore, the length of time that this will have taken to prepare, the amount of detail that will have gone into planning, to plan what they needed to do to try and confuse Israeli intelligence. And Netanyahu, it'll strengthen him to a degree amongst the hardliners that are in there, but it'll also, in some ways, weaken him, potentially, as some of the lessons come out in that he hasn't been able to get a grip of this.
He's supposed to be the strong man, and he failed to
exactly. So the real impact in Netanyahu hasn't played out yet, right. And there could be something in there.
And in terms of the international reaction, very, very strong support from all the Western allies of Israel. Let's remember, this is the only democracy in the Middle East. We should be supporting this state for that very reason alone. We don't have to agree with everything that Israel does. Every policy, the illegal settlements, they are illegal. They should be called out for that, other policies. However, they have now launched huge air assaults, missile assaults on Gaza. We are looking at apartment buildings being razed to the ground. We are talking about mass casualties, at least 500 known to have died, 2,700 plus known to be injured. Not enough medicine, not enough doctors, not enough health facilities, water switched off, fuel switched off, electricity switched off, borders closed with Egypt and Israel. So people are told you should get out. There's nowhere for those people to go. Do you think there will be a big backlash? And do you think it would be right or wrong if there were this backlash against Israel for their retaliation?
I think Hamas is expecting that to happen because Hamas in their tactics use asymmetric tactics. They use the local Palestinian population as human shields. They deliberately put their military headquarters inside apartment complexes. They put armament dumps inside mosques. They put their rocket-firing mechanisms beside hospitals and elsewhere, knowing that any retaliation from the Israelis is going to cause collateral damage. They then build that information operation and put that out to try and undermine what Israel's doing. And that's then picked up by other international players that then want to try and use that to undermine support that there is in the West.
when it comes to a lot of people in this country saying, this has been going on for years, it's not my fight, it's not my battle, I'm sorry, it all looks awful, a plague on all your houses, I'm just worried about what happens in this country. We've seen protests in this country, we've seen an attack on, I'm surprised just the one, to be honest with you, on a kosher restaurant in Golders Green in North London. Why does what happens there matter to us in the UK?
There's a number of reasons. The day we allow terrorism to dictate what is happening in a democratic environment is the day that we as a democracy have begun to fail. So this is critical for all of us. It's undermined stability in the Middle East more than anything in recent years. That has got a direct economic impact on us with oil prices and with everything else. If you examine the wider destabilization that there is growing around the world, this is adding to what's going on in Ukraine, what's been happening with coups in Africa, with what Kim Jong-un's doing with his destabilization in Southeast Asia, with what is going on in a number of other places, the Kosovo-Serbia issue. And therefore we're seeing a pattern that's building across the world. And from an intelligence perspective, as soon as you start to see patterns like this, you get worried.
And the pattern is, what does it tell us?
Well, the pattern is we're seeing increasing instability across the globe. And the thread that seems to be going through it are there are two groups of countries around the world. Ones that can think in multi-generational terms, Russia, China, Iran, Saudi Arabia and elsewhere forming, carrying out their activities. Then you've got others that are dictated by presidential, prime ministerial elections. We've got US elections coming up. We've got UK elections coming up. There's no accident that this isn't at the beginning of the run-up to US elections. We're probably going to see more over the next year.
Right. So there are lots of things interplaying right now. Yeah. This is kind of the 4D chess and not just a very simple...
5D or 6D
5D.
chess,
Right, OK. Do stay there. We've got to get your thoughts and indeed Tom Slater's thoughts in just a moment as well.